It's 8 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. From 299 Queen Street West, you're watching Toronto's Breaking News, and I'm George Lagagenis. Welcome to this month's episode of The Chief. Chief Mark Saunders joins me now live in studio. Studio is here to take your questions, and you can reach us by a multitude of ways. You can call us at 416-872-2724. You can email us right now at cp24.com or tweet us using the hashtag AskTheChiefCP24. Good evening.
George, we've got to stop meeting like this.
Oh, it's a pleasure. No, it's good to have you. I really appreciate it. And
thanks.
There's just so much going on. It's a really opportune time to talk about a number of issues that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis within the service and just at large, socially at large.
You bet.
Let's start with Black Lives Matter. Not just the Toronto chapter, but this is happening across the country right now. Simultaneous protests. There's one happening at the SIU headquarters. They're demanding justice for Abdurrahman Abdi, a Somali Canadian who died after a police interaction in Ottawa in July. Now, here's a live shot of the rally that's happening there. They've been there all day. This was supposed to be an evening-only thing, but they've been there since the early morning hours, and their numbers are growing. So what's your feeling about what you're seeing, what you're hearing today?
Well, you know, it's a good question. I mean, Black Lives Matters, and I've stated this before, have been developed that they're a symptom of what is going on, and it's the concern or lack of trust for the judicial system as a whole, and they've echoed their concerns in various platforms and in various areas. Now, I can talk about the police because, I mean, there are a couple of things that I think need to be corrected a little bit. When the narrative comes out that we haven't done anything in 20 years and nobody's listening, I would beg to differ with that. You know, from police perspective, when you look at all of the things that we have done to enhance transparency, when you look at the regulations that we've done, the fact that we've brought in members of the community to look at our procedures, our policies, to look at our training, help us make it better, look at it with a racialized lens to make sure that we're getting it right, the fact that every officer has fair and impartial training so that they understand the importance of biased and not to have biased affect behavior. We've got so many different communities from so many diverse groups across the city that we've worked on for years and years and years to try to get it better, adding another day of community engagement, bringing in members of the community, of the diverse community, to explain what our roles and responsibilities should be in the community. And I can go on ad nauseum to say the things that we have done. So when you say we haven't done anything in 20 years, from a policing perspective, we've done a lot. We're not where we need to be, but we're doing anything and everything that we can, including cameras in every single police car and looking at the body-worn cameras that we are looking at right now that has just finished a pilot project.
For some context, let's talk a bit about what the demands that they've made and are making are. Across the board, they want those officers in Ottawa charged. They want the SIU to release details about race-based data banks. They want the Attorney General, NACV, to expedite the Akabuchi report recommendations regarding people in crisis. They want Minister Hoskins to investigate the hospital and the paramedics in Ottawa. They allege that they had collusion in this man's death. He definitely had mental health issues. His family confirms that. And reports are that he was groping people in this coffee shop, and that's why police responded in the first place. Now, there's a lot of speculation that this group chose tonight to do this in Toronto because you're here to speak to it. What's your take on that, the broad scope of the kind of things they're looking for? I mean, your job is to enforce the law. You don't write it, and I think even they understand that. But are these requests that they're making just beyond the pale?
Well, you know, far be it for me to offer an opinion on what they're thinking. I mean, I've offered many opportunities for them to come and sit down and let's talk, and I haven't received an email, I haven't received a phone call, so that's neither here nor there. But, you know, like I said, when it comes to the issues concerning SIU, I'm not going to talk about that. There is, our government's looking at the whole system as a whole, looking at it from the proper lens, and I'm looking forward to what the findings are going to be based on that. And I think that's something that's moving forward, and the government has said there's a sense of urgency to this. So commenting on that, I think right now would be cross purposes on my part.
All right, let's go back a few months, and this relates to Black Lives Matter. The director of Pride Toronto, Mathieu Chantalois, he is out now as the director. So their management structure is kind of in limbo. You wrote a pretty long letter not long ago, back on the 27th of July, right after that, to sort of clarify the police position on the LGBTQ community. Have they been in touch, and where do things stand with that community in regards to Chantalois?
Yeah, okay, so we've spoken. I've had the opportunity of speaking with the committee, the executive, and it was a very constructive conversation. And they're in a situation right now where they have to have their meeting with the community to figure out what the next steps are. My role, and the reason why I put that letter out was because we were receiving a lot of emails, a lot of correspondence saying, look, we're concerned that there might be a disconnect with the police and with our communities, and we don't want that to happen. So I wanted to make it very clear that, no, that's not the case at all. In fact, we will continue to improve and increase our relationships to the best of our ability. So I had to get that message out there so that the public understood that that was where we stood. After meeting with the executive, one of the things that I believe is an exciting opportunity is I really want to, from lessons learned, there is a marginalized group within the LGBTQ2S community, and I would really like to have a sit down and see what we can do to improve that relationship. Anytime there's any segment of community that feels unfair or there are unreported crimes, I know with the trans community, we have a ton of unreported crimes, so we don't have the numbers right. And if they don't trust the police, then we've got a problem, and these are things that we need to, look at very aggressively and try our best to repair.
And it's important, I think, to punctuate here for anybody that thinks that police just sort of parachute into the parade once a year, put together a float, and go out there and march along, and then it's over. That's not the case. I mean, I'm just looking at your letter. There's so many programs, the Coffee with Cops, Let's Talk series, the Youth Justice Bursary. There's a lot going on, and it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, that letter was the tip of the iceberg, and it was just to indicate, look, this is the direction we're moving in. Don't lose sight of the fact that there is a continuous, ongoing opportunity to develop relationships. And really, my lesson learned was that there still are some segments within that community that we need to work with, and I hope we have that opportunity.
Is it unfair to conflate what's happening in the States in terms of the Black Lives Matter movement to what happens here? It seems like they come at it from different angles, and there's very different things that they're protesting, those groups in America, in the inner cities and the urban environments there, than what we're seeing here.
Yeah,
from your side.
From my perspective, I want to stay focused on Toronto. I don't want to oversimplify an incredibly complex situation. There's so many aspects to this that it's tough. But I know from a Toronto-centric perspective, I'm responsible for the men and women of the Toronto Police Service and making sure that we have the right relationship with all segments of community. And so our training, our rules, and our oversight, and our transparency, and our trust, all of these things I think are important. And I'm looking to move towards strengthening all of those aspects of our role when it comes to the issues and concerns that they have.
Do you think it would be beneficial for just you to sit down with the leadership of this Black Lives Matter Toronto group without having the mayor or any other bodies there, just to sit down and, have a little back and forth, a little exchange?
Well, I think what would work best is an informed conversation, not rhetoric, but an informed conversation. If we've got an issue, if there's an issue with what we're doing, first sit down and see exactly what we're doing, how we got to where we are, look at our training, look at our rules, look at the procedures, the policies, the complaints, all of those things. And the training is incredibly intense, what we have right now, and the lenses that we've put through the training, have a look at that, then let's have the conversation from that point. Be informed about the conversation, then engage in the conversation.
Because in the States, we've heard that a number of services, Baltimore and others, have done ride-alongs. They've taken members of these groups on ride-alongs just to, not just one a week, but for over the course of months, different people. So they collect a lot of a database of what it's like to be a frontline cop day in, day out. Would that work here?
Well, we have a lot of different entities with what we do when it comes to working with our diverse community. We've got consultative committees, we've got internal service networks, we've got ambassador programs. We have so many layers of things where we've actually got the community engaged. When it comes to the Transformational Task Force, we're working with the community to help us write how we can modernize the police service together. The PACER Advisory Committee, walking them through our training. A symbolic ride-along is just that. You can't, in a 2-hour, in a 6-hour shift, all of a sudden have an understanding of everything. You have to be at the table a couple of times to have a full understanding, not just my side, not just law enforcement side. You have to have an understanding of the community side as well. That involves being at the table, and that means you have to be invested for a period of time.
Good stuff. We'll continue with this topic. Other things folding into it when we come back, though.
Sure.
We'll take our first break, Chief. Thanks very much. It's 8:09 right now on the show. We'll come back with the Chief, and we'd like you to participate. You can give us a call, you can tweet us, email us. We'd love to hear your questions, and we'll send you to break with another live shot from the Black Lives Matter protest here in Toronto that's happening outside of the SIU headquarters. Welcome back to this month's episode of The Chief. I'm George Lagajanis. Marijuana dispensaries. It remains a big, hot topic in the city, and it's not just police raids that are a cause for concern for residents. Now, take a look at this. This was the scene of an explosion at the Tweeder Medicinal Dispensary on Eglinton just a few days back, August 19th. A 29-year-old man was injured in the blast. The fire marshal's office was called in to investigate. All right, joining me now with the chief is Inspector Steve Watts with the Drug Squad. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for
let's
having
start
me.
with Project Claudia. It goes back to that. What was the genesis of this project, and how has it evolved into what we're still seeing now, which is a continuing, an ongoing series of raids?
The genesis origin of that was back at the beginning of this year. We noticed a really rapid increase in terms of dispensaries. Literally, they were growing from, in February to March on a monthly basis, they were growing 10 to 20 at a time. So by the time we had reached May, we had already kind of reached a number approximately around 80 dispensaries. So there was a kind of a collaborative approach with the City of Toronto, with municipal licensing and standards, and of course with PPSC and the support of the command, just to determine how we were going to address this and how we were going to move forward with this issue.
So if you're seeing 80 to 100, is it like some other things in life where if you're seeing that many storefront, there's probably a lot more behind them? A lot of others that are more clandestine that you don't even really know about, that are sort of, cloak and dagger.
Well, I would say maybe in terms of production, in terms of illicit production, black market production to supply, but not necessarily, because the whole reason for those, or one of the reasons, is to make as much money as possible. You'd have to have your retail storefront to attract your customers. So I would think it would primarily just be the storefronts that they're clearly advertising, very, very openly advertising, whether it be on social media, paper media. So there was no hiding their presence.
You were very prescient. Last month on the episode, we talked about dispensaries and the raids that had just happened days before the last episode, and you wanted to really punctuate the public safety issue, well beyond just that these places are operating illegally. You're talking about edibles, and your fears that something like this could have happened. And from what we know, it hasn't been fully released to us, at least. Whatever kind of production was going on that caused, or whatever in this place that caused that explosion, and we saw the tape of how explosive it was happening in the back and in the basement. So just imagine what it took to create that, and that people were passing by seconds earlier. That's a big problem in an urban environment.
No, absolutely. When you see glass exploding on Eglinton, one of the busiest streets in our city, had it been for anyone being there, we know that we could have been having a much different discussion right now.
And there's been a lot of robberies happening, too. There's been other crime that circulates in and around these dispensaries, correct?
That's correct. Anytime you have product, controlled substances, you have money in a location. I would draw the analogy to, say, a residential home invasion. You could draw a similar analogy to that. It's an opportune kind of target, if you will, to take both money and controlled substances.
Are you concerned about these dispensaries that continue to, defy the law and reopen moments after, days after, even hours after the police come and confiscate and raid and make arrests, that they're going to become ghettoized into certain parts of the city, and then just and the clientele will just continue to go there?
Well, I wouldn't
expecting that they'll be there.
Be careful with ghettoized. I mean, I'm hoping that the more we educate the community, the more we educate the City of Toronto to let them realize that it is an unlawful act when that transaction is occurring, then that is the driving force to help the reduction of the supply-demand factor that we have right now. It is unlawful. The quality of the substance is sketchy. You don't know what it is, and the Globe put out an article which verified that scientifically. So these aren't just words that we're putting on paper. This is the reality for what's going on right now, and we've got concerns.
Look, I've been to a couple of these places post-raid, and the places that have reopened not long after, starting to sell product to people as long as you're of age. Number of people that walked in, they just looked them up and down. There was not even an ID required. People are getting sold dime bags for $15, so they're turning a profit. It's a business, and the altruistic sort of side of it kind of falls off the table when you realize that every 10 people that come through, there's $50 in the pocket of the person running this place, and that's a whole other side of this, isn't it?
Absolutely. There's a large volume of cash that are flowing through these, and in the absence of overall federal legislation, that's what they've kind of seized on, and they've taken advantage of that. So that's where we find ourselves at this point.
Does it frustrate you that politicians made promises a little earlier than maybe they should have in a campaign versus what was really going to happen on the ground?
No, I'm not frustrated. I know, there's a federal task force that's committed to, looking at what the best regulations are for restricting, regulating, enforcing. And the focus for that task force is, the effects or the issues with young people, with drug-impaired driving. And like you said, you talked about before, where are your facilities? If, in fact, when it happens, where will your facilities, where will your dispensaries be located? Not near schools and not near residential areas. And we can look to the U.S. and even look to Vancouver, what they've done downtown. So, it's not frustrating when we enforce the laws as they are and the CDSA as it stands, and that's our position. So.
Okay. I think we have Christina Tenalia. She's joining us now out on the road from Rexdale. She's got a question for the chief. Hi, Christina. Thanks very much.
Hi, George. Good evening, Chief. We are here in Rexdale this evening. I'm here with Fahad. Fahad, the chief is listening. Look right into the camera and ask him your question.
Why is it not mandatory yet for police officers to wear body cameras? I was recently in an incident where the police had given me a ticket, and it was my word against theirs, and their words kind of reigned supreme. Why not protect civilians more, right, by making this mandatory?
All right, Chief. You've got results on this report that are coming out very soon, correct?
You bet, and thanks for asking that question, Fahad. First and foremost, all of our police vehicles, our marked police vehicles, have camera systems in them. So if he was stopped, as he said, and was issued a ticket, there's a very strong possibility that he's just misinformed and doesn't understand that encounter may have been recorded itself. So if he's got a complaint with conduct or any issues concerning that particular interaction, he's got the opportunity to reach out, get that objective evidence, or make that complaint so that we can utilize the objective evidence to determine what the outcomes are. Now, having said that, with the body-worn camera review, yes, it ended a couple of months ago. This September, I'm going to be presenting to the board the findings of the body-worn camera, and we wanted to make sure we got it right. We want to strike a balance of respecting privacy and also making sure that there's that ability for transparency and safety for the officers as well as the public as well. And so when we did this project, we worked under the umbrella with the Human Rights Commission, with the Privacy Commission, with the Ministry of Attorney General's office, and through our knowledge. So it wasn't done in a silo, and I think that we came out with a very decent product. But now the results, which we look by an academic review, is basically put out what their findings are, and we will then figure out through the board, when I present to the board, what the next steps are.
All right. Chief, thanks very much. Steve, also, don't go away. We're going to speak more about this issue of the dispensaries and other things related to what you do with the drug squad. But right now, we're going to take a break here on CP24. This month's edition of The Chief will be right back, hopefully, to take more of your questions as well.